I've appeared here so many times, for so many occasions, for so many fundraisings, but this may be the only fundraising that may get me in trouble internally in PKR. It's good to see everyone, and I feel honored to be part of, although quite from the outside, to be part of the birth of a new party which hopefully will help us bring closer to the objectives that all of us have been working for. A truly Malaysian society that is not being differentiated by religion, race, or your background. I have a very logical reason for being extremely vocal in supporting Amanah. Of course, for that, I think, and the press are all here, I'm aware, and they will write about this. I'm quite raw in politics. In fact, I never planned to be in politics. I got conned to be in politics. And trust me, even if Mat Sabu tells you something, think twice. Don't ever trust politicians 100%. I went through it myself. I'm quite raw in politics, and I learned that in politics, especially in Malaysia, if you show your card too obviously, it may not be good to you politically. And I think this is the lesson I learned about the whole Pakatan, Harapan and Amanah. It seems that an idea that is very logical to me, that looks very good, not many people out there may actually subscribe to that idea. And now I think I would like to take the opportunity tonight, at least to be a devil advocate, to present to you some of those contrasting ideas so that you appreciate how difficult it is for us to bring together different parties of different ideologies and inclinations towards a common objective of not only getting rid of UMNO and Barisan Nasional, but most importantly, make sure that we don't repeat another Barisan Nasional in Putrajaya. And for that matter, that's why it's very logical to me that any political coalition, if you want to sell this political coalition to the public so that the public can give a trust, can invest time and money so that we can replace UMNO Barisan Nasional. First and foremost, the public must have full confidence that they get exactly what they bargained for. And that's why we should have learned our lesson that any political coalition must have cohesiveness, must have very clear terms of reference, must have very clear policies about what we will and we will not do should we go to Putrajaya. And for that matter, based on that logic, naively, I said I will show my cards from the very beginning that I will support a new progressive Islamic party, because only a new progressive Islamic party can understand how it is to navigate a multiracial Malaysia while at the same time making sure our multiracial society understand what is truly a Muslim society. And I think based on that, I have to declare that I'm not against PAS per se. And it is very important for everyone here and outside to understand that whatever your misgiving about PAS, it still commands a sizable support out there, without that sizable support, whatever we may do in this very short time may not be enough to replace UMNO Barisan Nasional. And that's our dilemma. How do you navigate between a party which has some kind of stranglehold, not unlike UMNO's stranglehold on the Malays. It's just that they are at the opposite poles. How do you navigate a party that commands such sizable support from the Malays, without which, on paper, it is very difficult to arrive at Putrajaya? And this is a very dilemma in PKR. And we have this tragic burden. Some people say strategic burden, I say it's a tragic burden, of always trying to be the bridge between everyone. People say that PKR is neither here nor there all the time. I hear that all the time. But you must remember, without the neither here nor there glue, there can never be a meeting of minds of people of different and opposite poles. And that's the burden that I think Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Azizah has to carry, and is a very heavy burden, which I hope you give her the time and space for us to be able to navigate this. A lot of people ask and feel that the launch of Pakatan Harapan was too hasty because not enough time was given to pass. I've sat down in 2 private meetings between the leadership of PAS and PKR. And the leadership of PAS, who represented the meeting, without the president, but I think they did have a mandate, have categorically said over and over again that PAS will not join any political grouping which include DAP and Amanah. And anyone with some logical reasoning would understand that I don't think any one of us can reason out with PAS, at least in the near future, to sit down together with DAP and Amanah. PKR may fancy ourselves as a... I didn't do that. PKR may fancy ourselves as the top diplomat in this country, but I think we also have to be realistic that in a matter of 1 or 2 years before the next general election, I don't think PKR will be able to convince the past leadership of the need to be together with DAP and Amanah. And I think that's fine. There's really no point trying to push an agenda which they cannot set. For some reasons, emotionally, sentiment, historical, whatsoever. So what choice do we have? That's why from the very beginning, I've subscribed to the need of the rakyat first, before the need of the politicians. And irrespective of what happens to PKR internally within this 1 or 2 months, no one in this hall, outside the hall, or anywhere in the country can contest that without a strong and unified opposition, it is equivalent to allowing Najib and Rosmah to continue as if there is no tomorrow in London in this country. I usually come up here and tell you stories, more revelations and so on. I don't think I should do that anymore. Everyone and anyone is convinced of one thing. I was in Singapore in the last few days, and people ask me about how divided Malaysia is. I said that's not entirely true, you know. I have never seen Malaysians disunited ever. Of all the many differences and problems that we have, every Malaysian, including Mahathir and the Sultan and the King now, can agree on one thing, which is Najib is so bad and he has to go. But without a unified and strong opposition coalition, you cannot translate this anger and resentment that the public has towards the number one, the Prime Minister of the country, into actions that can have some meanings and impacts in the country. Every time we have a problem, Mat Sabu will issue one statement, Lim Kit Siang will issue another statement, Wan Azizah will issue another statement, and Tuan Ibrahim, Tuan Iman will issue another statement. If I were a member of the public, looking in from the outside, I say these people are jokers. You can't even agree to speak exactly the same thing in a unified voice. All of you are saying exactly the same thing, which is Najib is bad. Why can't you just come together and say it together so that we don't have four different statements, more or less the same thing, on the same issue? That's why, to those who complain and say that the launch of Pakatan Harapan is hasty, I tell you that this country has suffered from a lack of unified and functional opposition coalition since the last general election. It's not last 2 or 3 months. We have not been able to call a meeting of our presidents for almost 2 years. And this had taken place at the time when the country was going down its worst crisis ever. I can understand if I were in your shoes and I was away for a few days, again trying to look from the outside, and I said, if I were a Malaysian public, I would lose any hope I have of this country and of its politicians. Because when what is right is very clear, they still cannot find some rooms in their hearts to put away all these differences and focus on what is important to the public. Now that's what you want to hear. Okay, let me tell you what you don't want to hear. We live in a country which is very divided. We live in a society that is extremely isolated and polarized. I doubt you have much input about what your common Malay friends feel. I doubt you actually have many interactions with the Malay men from Johor, Perak, Kelantan or Terengganu. Your views are very much confined to what you see in Klang Valley from your educated and urban crowd. You can't understand why it is so difficult to see the most logical political permutations. Have the 3 political partnership first between PKR, DAP and Amanah, strengthen it, becomes a national opposition, then you can work on a one-to-one contest with PAS come the next general election. That's a common sense that anyone here can understand. But that's what you see. That's not what people, especially the Malays from out of Klang Valley, see it. They see this whole Pakatan project as a Chinese project. I think they are wrong. They are wrong. I can tell you they are wrong. But that's what they believe. And just as polarized and as isolated they are as much as polarized and isolated as you are. They hardly have any interaction with any non-Malays. They can't understand this issue about corruption because to them it is a lot more important that Malays govern this country. To them, we rather be poor than be governed by the Chinese like Singaporeans. Actually, I was in Singapore and I was in Singapore until today. I sat down with a few of the Malays. I think they are quite happy. So I think we need to get a lot more Malays to go to Singapore and understand actually when the cake and when the pie is bigger, there's a lot more to share. So that they don't fear. But they fear it now. And that's the challenge. I've got a signal that I need to end. And that's, I want to tell you, that's the challenge that Amanah has to carry. That's the challenge that PKR has to carry. How do we go and convince the Malays I know you guys have been saying, why don't you spend more time in rural areas? I tell you, I don't see my baby as often as I want, because I spend too much time in rural Malay heartlands. It's not so much about spending time in rural Malay heartlands. It is about what their perception and going against the negative perception that they have, that we have to contest. I can go there and talk every day and night, but they will continue to say Mat Sabu is a DAP stooge. It doesn't matter how many times Mat Sabu went to ISA, prison. It doesn't matter how many times we went in lockups to fight for them. It doesn't matter. To them, you guys are Chinese stooge. And that is a long, long, long process. And it is that fear that I think split PKR. Because there are still a lot of our leaders who feel that in the short time that we have, we will not be able to convince the Malays, who matter as well, in order to deliver that 120 seats that we need, that this is not a Chinese planning, that this is what the country needs to go forward, and race is a question of the past. Some people feel that we will take a long, long time to convince the Malays. And that's why I think the issue of whether Pakatan Harapan is timely, the support that we give to Amanah has become an issue that is a continuing discourse in PKR. And I want to end this like this. I hope you give us time. I think I have never shied away from controversies. I believe that this is the way forward. Whatever some of my colleagues in PKR feel, I think this is the way forward. This is how we forge a united Malaysian society in the future. I may not be able to push things within PKR as much as I would like it, but we have to go through the process and the motion, and it is a democratic process. What I hope you will do after this is that among yourself, you arrange yourself into smaller groups, you help us to win and to campaign in this rural heartland. PKR has about 25 seats which we can win by only a swing of 5% votes. Amanah has the same, I think, if they get to contest. The AP has 1 or 2. Work with us on the ground, fund these campaigns, come down and see and empathize with the differences that they have. And I think the interaction, hopefully, God help us, within the next 1 year, we will be able to change the perception and sentiment of the Malays outside the Klang Valley, to understand that when the Chinese give full support to Amanah, it is not because Amanah is a Chinese stooge. When the Chinese or the non-Malays give support to Pakatan Harapan, this is not a scheme to take over this country, but it is because it is the right thing to do for every Malaysian, whether you are Malay, Chinese, Indian, and and hopefully when we all do that, when every party does that and campaign earnestly where it matters outside the Klang Valley, I hope within the 1 and 2 years, we can bid farewell to Najib and Rosmah for good, hopefully. So, thank you very much for your support to my dear friends. Hopefully next one, PKR can do the same, and I hope to see as many of you as well. Thank you very much. Good night. Assalamualaikum. Thank you.